Mrs. Anderson, you and your husband are also responsible for some very successful space-age puppet series. You've now made the move for, well, for want of a better phrase, to adult fiction world. Do you find that the two forms very different?
They are really, in as much as with the puppets, you know, one could decide what body a puppet had, what hairstyle, exactly, how they were dressed and so on. You're a little more inhibited, I think, with an actor, you know. You can't really change tall man to short man.
So the first time that I ever met Sylvia Anderson, I was called in to Rose Tobias Shaw, who was a very, very big casting agent at the time. And Sylvia was looking for the girls for UFO. She decided that they had to be really different, incredibly tall, Amazonian, and with a different look. And I'd just done a publicity shot at Holland Park that has some rather small statues. And she'd seen me in a national newspaper and thought that I was about 6'5". So they called me in and I walked in and she had this shock of blonde hair. And I walked in and she said, the first thing she said to me were not, "Oh, I'm really pleased to see you." She said, "You're so small." And I said, "Well, I'm not that small." So she said, "Oh, I thought that you were going to be about 6 foot tall because you're with a statue." I said, "Yes, but it's a very little statue." So that was the first time that I met her. She would come down to the set. She would check your makeup. She would always see that your costumes were right. She was very hands-on, and it was very sweet because both Sylvia and Jerry, when I got married, they sent me a telegram for my wedding, and they just took care of you. It was a very, very nice time. I won't forget her. Actually, Sylvia and I had a bit of a run-in because she thought I'd picked up some bad Hollywood habits. And the rumour was that actors would withhold their performance until their close-up.
Why did you do it?
It's a dirty world. Sometimes you have to cut a few corners.
To get what you want.
She thought I was doing that, and I was outraged. I mean, I was actually very angry. Because I would never do something like that. But she thought I was withholding my performance. So we had quite an argument about that. And I said, "I'd never do that, Sylvia." But after that, we sort of calmed down and we got on quite well. But I always got on with Jerry. He was an extremely nice man.
Jerry had a wonderful casting woman called Rose Tobias Shaw. And Rose had already cast me in quite a lot of stuff. And she cast me down at ATV. We did a series called Love Stories, and my character was a Swedish rally driver in a grey catsuit with actually pretty Lady Penelope hair. And Rose showed it to Sylvia somehow, I don't know how she did, and Sylvia said, "That's my Lady Penelope." I don't know whose decision it was, but they decided maybe that they would, why, with two leading men, why couldn't the third person be a woman? For once. Pretty early days, that.
620. Maximum safe depth. .640. Colonel, we are...
I heard you the first time, Captain. Continue the dive.
I got the job, but in one way I was a bit sad because I went up for it with a great friend of mine, Gary Raymond. And it was rather strange, really. The next time I saw him, he said, "You got my part."
Thought anything further than I just love being here and dressing up in these fab frocks and going out and pretending I'm seeing a flying saucer in the woods. I was still, and probably still am, one of the reasons I wanted to be an actress was just to dress up and tell a story. And that was it. It was the excitement of, you know, even though it wasn't there, was we're going through the woods and it's dark and something strange is going on, and then I'm meeting this gorgeous guy and I'm falling in love. It was fun. It was a great thing to be part of. I mean, even when I'm being told off by Wanda, and she's the least threatening person in the world when I eventually get there and she comes in and she's being heavy, and she's a great giggler. And it was really difficult to take that bit seriously, but I had to be frightened, so, that was part of the story.
Now, don't give me I don't know. I want answers. Why did you kill your boss?
I didn't.
And the patrolman, why?
I just don't understand what you're
You
talking
put your hands round his throat and you choked the life out of him.
Stop it.
You pressed and pressed.
Stop it!
Gone.
I mean, once you get a scene like that, it's rather good. It's always nice to play somebody who's being fairly unpleasant. It's usually sort of quite... I've been interrogated myself before on the screen, and it creates a good intensity.
I am Georgina Moon, and I played Lieutenant Sylvia Howell in a few episodes of UFO. That's I'm not giving my address or anything like that. I think what was so good about the whole thing, or for me, as I said, is everybody wearing string vests. We all had a great great feeling of camaraderie because we were all dressed the same, which I thought was quite a nice idea. I would have thought the costumes could easily be called a step to unisex clothing, yes, which really wasn't probably around so much in that time. Yes, the fact that we were all sort of wearing the same sort of outfits. And the string vest thing has just become quite... I wished I should have kept one of those string vests. I could sell it for a great deal of money now, I'm sure. But unfortunately, I didn't.
I had all these wonderful-looking men around me in string vest and very tight trousers. It was an episode where I was seen in Skydiver, and my first line of the morning was to pull the periscope down and say to all these wonderful men around me, dive, dive, dive. And we all became hysterical with that, too. But they were wonderful-looking guys. I think they were models. They weren't the usual sort of extras. No, I shouldn't say that. Supporting cast. They were very good-looking men.
They're quite tough, weren't they, those girls? But we were... Wanda was in a suit, I think. She wasn't in the miniskirts. I think the girls that actually worked there were all in suits, weren't they? They weren't prancing around in push-up bras and miniskirts like the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, the fun was really that I had to think about the girls on Moonbase and how to make them different. So we had the silver costumes. Then I thought, let's do a purple wig. And again, I went back to my wig creations people and said, look, this is what I want. So I remember coming into the studio in my office and sitting with a wig on in the office. No one took any notice. I thought, why aren't they saying something? And then walking in and out of the office, they're probably used to me doing crazy things like that. But I did some tests and I realized then that it was going to work really well. And we still had a budget. So I was looking for some costumes that would work, that wouldn't cost the earth. So I had the girls and the fellows, submarines and things. I saw an ad in one of the weekend papers about a whole stock of American surplus material, and they were like string vests in an olive colour. So I thought, string vests, that's a good idea. So you have them lined for the girls. And so I came up with a whole lot of those. I got delivered umpteen lots of string vests and said to the wardrobe people, look, how about this? So they said, oh yeah. So things like that I did, that were good fun.
Miss Carson is in charge of the geoscanner. She's very experienced.
I can imagine.
Colonel, exactly how many radio failures have you had?
One so far.
That doesn't seem too serious.
No, I think it was very progressive. If you think that the leading soldiers, the ones in charge, were women, we may have worn very tight, nice, interesting costumes and body shaping, but so did the men. They were all in exactly the same kind of outfit. No, I never, ever felt. You have to remember, they talk about the costumes being sexy. I was covered from my neck to my ankles. You saw a wrist, nothing. No, I thought that was a very, very progressive show indeed. That was probably the first where, I mean, if you think back to the other sci-fi series, they were all just, sort of dressing. The girls here, we were working and we were running the organisation. I thought it was superb.
My costume was, I think, a rather short green dress, if I recall properly. I seem to remember taking it off at some point, which would cause some consternation apparently with the distributors, which is ITV, I believe. So apparently the show went out quite late at night. But that's what I was wearing, that and some underwear.
What's the matter, Ed?
Get out.
The clothing in the film looks very futuristic. Can you see it having any applications today?
Yes, I can. I think the first and foremost, modern design is very practical. For example, you can have a girl arriving in the office with a cat suit with sleeves and a skirt on. She wants to go out in the evening, she can remove the sleeves, put on an extra miniskirt or an extra coat or anything, and I think it will be adopted.
In that particular period, a lot of the clothes were quite fluffy, and that kind of dress didn't suit me at all. And I used to buy quite plain things. And I had this particularly purple shirt, and I think I wore it to the interview. I was wearing the shirt, and when we went into wardrobe and discussed clothes, Sylvia said, she said, look, we'll do sort of tunic things for you. But she said, I remember that shirt you wore, if you still got it, then when you came to the interval. And I said, what shirt was that? And she said it was purple. And she said, and you wore a scarf with it. And she said, if we can find some purple trousers, how about she said, I've got an idea for the last episode that you're in, which is different from the beginning ones. And she said, can you hold it back? Don't wear it again. And I didn't.
Yes, sir, I is here if you can but find me.
Where'd he go?
And it became extraordinary. I mean, I get at least twice a week, even now, I get a request, and it's always the picture of me wearing the purple shirt and scarf. It's extraordinary. It just happened by accident.
I'm the first person that's seen in 1980, walking up to meant to be the headquarters. So we've gone from the late 60s up to the 1980. Yes, but the first thing you see is you don't really know it's a person, it's a bottom. I can remember being given a clipboard and told, to look as though I'm just going to work, and it would be as though we're just regular people and not that we're part of Shadow or anything. And that I was a little bit concerned because I was doing my acting, and I said to Jerry Anderson, but I'm not sure if you can actually see my face. And then I realised that he was actually shooting me from the rear. But now everybody knows that as the titles, and I think it's rather sweet. Well, there you go. That's not bad. My rear has adorned the front of a magazine. What more could you ask for after years of study?
Did Ed forgive me for hitting him over the head with a vase? I guess so. Yeah, I mean, we got on great. And I imagine the vase was, you know, a prop that broke up fairly easily, so I don't think I hurt him very much. Yes, I do remember that, actually. I believe we filmed it at Crystal Palace, and that's where I grew up. I was a child in Crystal Palace. It was actually very exciting when I was doing my own driving, and I felt like, you know, a bit of a stunt woman here. And of course, driving a Porsche was a lot of fun. And because it was the sort of racetrack at Crystal Palace, it was, you know, it was wide open, and we didn't have to worry about other traffic.
I have a radar sighting, bearing 279.
Right. I also had this line that seemed to occur, connecting boosters. I can't remember quite how I used to say it. Hopefully it was better than that, but I think it was connecting boosters.
It was checking boosters.
Of course, I've got it wrong. It wasn't connecting boosters. It could have been connecting boosters, but it was checking boosters.
Launch stations. Launch stations. Clear one.
One clear.
Clear two.
Two clear.
Ready for takeoff, sir. Okay, lift off stations. Lift off stations.
Checking boosters.
Circuits. Cut boosters. H-pulse circuits, okay.
Cutting boosters.
I wonder if that's how it sounds when you see it. I can't remember. Oh dear, such a long time ago.
Lift off stations. Check boosters.
Checking boosters.
I would have thought, in terms of women's roles, UFO was a great, I was just going to say boost for ladies. Yes, I think so, especially for TV as well. Definitely. It probably was for women. Yes, few ladies in Star Trek. I'm going to be truthful. I've seen Star Trek now and again, an odd one, but thinking about it, it's mostly guys. Yes, you're right. Not a lot of well-known or no female actresses in it either.
Yeah, Uhuru was like the token black girl as well. It was nothing. All you ever saw was her back. I mean, look at the girls, what they did in UFO. I think they were more important than that, because you have to remember Gabriella was in charge of the moon base. She didn't have a boss. She ran that moon base. That's a big thing. She's running a planet. Now, nothing. We've gone back over. Don't get me started on that. We have gone, for me in my music industry, we have gone back 25 years. This is the funniest thing. I'm sitting here with 5 guys, and they're all going, it doesn't happen in life. You never get 5 men to agree with you. I couldn't get 3 husbands to agree with me. This is hysterical. Oh, dear. I know. Amazing. Go down in my history book, this will.
What's the story on our communications, Lieutenant?
Main radio knocked out, sonar and radar working. The hydrophone on the marker buoy is active, but the power is weak.
What was equality like at the end of the 60s? Well, it was different from now. I think women definitely have much more freedom and say so. But at the end of the 60s, it was still a man's world.
Now, before we start, I must tell you that I'm a very busy man, Mr. Fraser.
I must apologize. My name is Josephine Fraser. I sometimes find that in a man's world, Joe is more convenient.
Well, is it a man's world?
I think so.
This is interesting. In those days, page 3 girls weren't page 3 girls. They were actresses. And I will have got a lot of publicity from doing something like this because of the frocks and the look. And for years, those sort of newspapers had, well, I don't think it would have been The Sun in those days, but it would have been some dolly actress in a miniskirt, and I did an awful lot of those. And I can remember specifically the photo shoot when, and I think it was somebody like Terry Donovan or whoever, said to me, "Now will you take your top off?" And I said, no. And he said, "Right, well then I think we're finished here." And that was it. And the actresses disappeared and the models, the glamour models, came in. So I think the very fact that we were appearing in papers probably did our careers a huge amount of good, and therefore probably UFO will have aided my career significantly.
One article published in the last month. The car on hire. You were right about that the first time. You earned it. The hard way.
I do remember the scene because I saw the episode not too long ago, and it was just a setup for the seduction. She was going to seduce him to get the information she wanted, as I recall.
Just what did you have mapped out for me? Did you plan to take me for all you could get? Or maybe something more cozy? Like an idyllic weekend somewhere, and a guy with a camera who just happens to burst in at the right time.
Maybe at first.
Oh, come on, don't give me that.
Actually, I didn't know that at the time, that the broadcasters held it back for several years. I really didn't know that. It does surprise me in a way, but on the other hand, it doesn't surprise me because Jerry Anderson was associated with the Thunderbirds, which was really more of a children's series, wasn't it? And for his company to be making a series like UFO was quite, a step forward in a different direction. And perhaps having a woman seducing a man in one of the shows, and quite overtly, by stripping off in front of him and giving him a big come-on, was perhaps a step too far for them in terms of the brand and the image that they were presenting.
Don't tell me there's an emotion left in that pretty little head. You must be getting soft.
Soft? That's the way you get eaten alive. Oh, you wouldn't understand. It's a man's world, remember?
The one I did with Vladek Scheibel, I was drugged in that. Wasn't I? I think I was on the bed, weaving around a bit.
I'm sorry, I just don't seem to be able to remember a thing.
You can't remember coming back with Commander Straker?
I can recall leaving the airport in Commander Straker's car, but after that, nothing, I'm afraid.
Yes, it was a severe blow to the base of the neck.
Don't I know it?
And it was very sad that it used to go out so late. I mean, wasn't the first episode went out at about 9? And then it got later and later. And it seemed to be scheduled so late that the people it was aimed at had already gone to bed. I'm never sure quite where that happened. I know later on, suddenly they imported from America Star Trek, and that kind of knocked us off our perch. I mean, Jerry was well ahead of his time then. And I thought, actually, the sets and the costumes of Star Trek were pretty shoddy by comparison to I thought UFO was much smoother, but I think it was the glamour. It was the glamour of the American accent, I think, that people loved.
So did UFO have a big effect, a knock-on effect for your career after?
Yeah, it didn't work for about 4 years after it.
Let's not say that. Actually, that might be a good
No!
They've probably got it now. So everyone's saying it's brains. Aisha says.
Worst bloody thing I could have done.
What about
No. I remember one thing they did do to me. I got married during the shooting of the series and obviously had asked to have 1 or 2 days off because it was a very big wedding. And as a joke, every evening they always hand you your call sheet for the next day and what time. And they'd all been told to not say anything. And they handed me a call sheet for the next day, which was my wedding. And I was absolutely panicked out of my life. I said, but I can't be here. And Ed, George, all of them said, you've got to be here. What are you talking about? You're signed. You have to do this. You have to be here at 7. I was hysterical. There were 300 people coming to a church. Yeah, so that was their way of teasing me.
Where'd he go?
J&K stages. He's over on one of the sound stages.
It was very funny. I don't know whether I should say this, but it was practically a three-hander with Ed and myself and Patrick Allen, who's a wonderful actor who now sadly is no longer with us. He had a wonderful voice. He did a lot of... he was known as the voiceover king. It was a wonderful voice.
Big deal, Striker. The guy the girls admire. Yo, I'm the big deal now. They promised me, and you're a nothing, Striker.
But he was playing this the baddie. And one morning I went into the wardrobe to get my clothes and I saw Sylvia and the hairdresser, Alice Head, and the wardrobe mistress, and they all sort of giggling in the corner. And I said, what's happening? What's going on? And they said, well, we're just trying to decide which of us should tell Patrick Allen that he really should be wearing a jockstrap. And I said, well, it's not going to be me. And they said, well, haven't you noticed? And I said, no, I wasn't looking. I was too busy acting, but they were in hysterics, and I don't know who told him in the end, but actually we did reshoot one particular scene where he was running across the tarmac to jump into the Jeep. They were very naughty and very giggly. We had a lot of fun. It was a lovely show to work on. I loved it, getting up in the morning, and at the time I had a white MGB, and I'd get in the car and drive down to Pinewood in the early hours of the morning, and I thought, I've cracked it. so funny looking back. I mean, now the wardrobe mistress would have gone straight up to him and said, I'm sorry, you've got to come back to the wardrobe, you've got to wear a jockstrap. But everybody was much shyer 50 years ago, and nobody liked to sort of even say the word jockstrap, let alone ask him to wear one. I mean, we're all much more forward now, you know. We were awfully polite in those days.
If I look really ugly, I'm going to have to come and kill you and your family.
His family. Direct that to him. We got that right. Good.
It's because he's in my eye line. You are so lucky.